Welcome to the Voice of Retail. I'm your host, Michael LeBlanc. This podcast is brought to you in conjunction with Retail Council of Canada. Whether you're stepping onto the store floor in 1884 or 2021, there is one element you could count on being a major part of your shopping journey: point of sale. In this episode, I'm joined by David Wilkinson, president of NCR Retail, for a fantastic discussion on the many innovations occurring in the retail space and the drivers behind them. COVID has been somewhat of a blessing and a curse. While it's been difficult for us all to adapt to this new abnormal, it's shown many retailers that, in Bruce Lee's words, they need to be formless, be shapeless like water, to adapt to retail in the modern age. We look at the different strategies companies across the world have been utilizing to become more agile in their POS and e-commerce integration, a must during curbside COVID. Let's listen in now. David, welcome to the Voice of Retail podcast. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing well, Michael. Thanks for having me.
Well, you're fresh off the virtual stage, so to speak, at the NRF Big Show. What a weird January, right? I mean, it's the first time in, I don't know, maybe 20 years I haven't been in New York City in January. I mean, the whole month feels weird. It's like I'm discombobulated. What about you?
It has been crazy. I mean, you think about January for us, it would be doing kind of year beginning meetings in person, NRF, all the prep sessions that would go with it. And honestly, we had all of that stuff in the bag, and we were doing it all remotely and virtually. So it was, on one hand, maybe nice, but on the other hand, very strange. So yeah, I agree with you completely.
Did it work out okay for you? In other words, I know these events are big opportunities to get all the customers in one place at one time with all your top leadership thought leaders. Did it work out okay? Is it, was it 80% of what you would hope, and maybe it's a good for now, but you wouldn't do this permanently, right? You wouldn't shift to this kind of model, would you?
Yeah, for things like the big show at NRF, I don't know that this would be a good permanent replacement. I would tell you that, I won't say I have low expectations, because the team puts a lot of work into creating content that can be consumed in the world that we live in. But I think that, I think the attendance, it's hard to consume the kind of content that we have. So I think a lot of people tried really hard, and I don't have a bunch of the feedback back yet, but I would tell you that, I don't think this is something that this will supplement things. It won't be here to stay long run is my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I guess if the consolidation is, or the consolation is, that everybody's got to do it. So it's not like you're an outlier and people will be talking about the way NCR did it. It's like everybody's got to do it. So we'll get through it, right? We'll get through it. Well, listen, let's jump into a little bit about you. Tell us about your background and your role at NCR.
Yeah, my background, I've been with NCR about 11 years. And before that, I was in technology, the technology space, networking, telecom, other areas of technology. But I actually started in finance a long time ago. So I would call myself a Texan. I'm not. I was born in the state of Ohio, but moved to Texas. I say as soon as we could get there, and did my schooling in Texas and started my career in Texas, and then moved to Georgia, to Atlanta with NCR for the headquarters, and really was doing a lot of different things within NCR, whether it was working with our channel programs or we did a cloud point of sale startup inside of NCR, and then the last 5 or 6 years I've been in our retail division, working in the best segment of the industry ever.
Some listeners might not even know National Cash Register, right? I mean, tell us about the NCR, both the rich heritage in retail and the company that it is today.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, you do think of NCR, National Cash Register, you think of the old brassies and the big cash registers and get a receipt and all those things. But we've come a long way. I think about NCR today. Our three primary businesses: we have retail, consumer banking, and our restaurant business or hospitality business. And so you think about what we do is that if you're a consumer in today's environment and you go to an ATM or some sort of an automated interactive teller machine, you go to a restaurant and do order and pay at the table, you go to a retailer and use self-checkout, you're touching NCR equipment. There's a good chance that the transactions that you do at the bank, whether it's digital banking, because we power a massive digital banking, one of the largest digital banking platforms. So if you're transacting with a bank, a restaurant, or a retailer, you're likely interacting with NCR software, and we provide the services to make sure that that's all available and up and running. And then we have some purpose-built hardware to run that. So we're a very different company, a software and services led company, but really creating outcomes and running banks, running stores, and running restaurants.
Now, global footprint, is there any country, I guess it's easier to say, is there any country you don't operate in, or give me a sense of that?
We are a global company. We predominantly, we'll say across the enterprise, 60% of our business would be kind of North America based, and then 40% would be rest of world. But yeah, we are a global company for large measure. Yes.
All right. Well, let's talk about the before time, pre-COVID. It's almost getting hard to remember. If you and I were sitting down at NRF this time last year, tell me and the listeners a little bit about how you were thinking about retail. Because in my mind, there's things that the COVID era has accelerated, and there's some new trends it's created. But as you looked ahead to 2020, and where I'm going with this is kind of understanding what's changed. But what and how are you thinking about the big trends in retail?
Yeah, it's a fun way to think about it. How are we doing, or what would we have talked about at NRF? Last year at NRF, as NCR, we were unveiling what we were calling our next generation retail store architecture. And the whole conversation was that the technology trends in the store are happening so fast that for you to be able to consume as a retailer in your store, the technology needed to serve your consumers, you're going to have to change the way you do technology. And because you have to adopt it so fast. And if you try to roll out technology in the same way that you've done it in the past, it was too expensive. So we talked about how we're changing the cost curve for retail technology with our platform approach, virtualizing the in-store infrastructure, and then the cloud-based applications. So that's the conversation we would have had. We just said, hey, the consumers, there's a labor crisis in your store in terms of you can't get enough people to do the right things that you want them to in the store, or it's prohibitively expensive, and then your consumers are demanding much more from you, and you're seeing a bit of a shift to online. That's what we would have talked about.
Well, fast forward. It's funny. I had an interview with Daryl Rigby from Bain, and he's got this great new book, Doing Agile Right. And we just talked about the philosophy of being more agile. And I was with Hudson's Bay Company back in the late 1990s, 2000s. And I remember I had this great idea for a custom message that was brought down and printed on the receipt based on our loyalty program. And everybody said, oh, that's a great idea. See you in 18 months. Because our next release is 18 months. And okay, you're in the next release, like these big, massive releases. Because, listen, you're the heartbeat of the store, right? I mean, if the POS isn't working, you're out of business. So it's a very, I imagine it's a very, I call it sensitive, but very high profile and very high risk in some ways to mess with your POS. So you must have been getting a lot of feedback around, geez, we're a little worried about how fast we go, because if we break it, it's a big, big problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you nailed it. I mean, these projects were long, and, the outcomes seemed simple. And now you put on the IT side, that was one thing, but now put yourself in the store ops shoes, or the merchandising team, or the marketing team, or the brand experience team. And it's hard to move that fast. And I think you're right that, what we're trying to do is de-risk that and say, it's not about a rip and replace, because it is the heartbeat of the store. The ability to do, and I'll joke, we'll say scan, total, tender is not, it's core to what you do. It's complicated, but it just has to work. So don't mess with that. And then I have to bolt on all these other experiences, and I need to do it quickly. I need to be able to test. I need to be able to fail fast, and I need to be able to create an experience to my customers that's differentiated, because that's really where retail has to focus. Gone are the days of, inventory, assortment, style, size, color, availability. That's kind of almost table stakes, and now it's about the experience.
Let's talk about the experience a little bit. This self-serve, and of course, self-serve. I think you're in that game, right? You self-serve checkouts, or if you're not, I'd love to hear your opinion about it.
We are the global market leader in self-serve checkouts.
All right. So they're nothing new. I mean, I remember projects I was on for Store of the Future in like 1999, where we were doing self-checkout. So it's one of those things. If you get it right, you've got the spectrum of the kind of Amazon, shop it like you stole it stores. I was looking at the new Kroger checkout cart. There's all kinds of playing around this concept of self-serve. But what's on your drawing board? How are you thinking about it? I know I talked to my friends in loss prevention, and they're trying different things. Canadian Tire in Canada, a retailer in Canada, actually scanned in hundreds of thousands of pictures so people couldn't ticket swap, and a picture would appear of something they were scanning. So all kinds of activity and energy happening around self-serve? How do you see it, and where do you see it going?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, we see that trend increasing. Obviously the pandemic has heightened awareness, both labor shortages and just safety, employee and consumer safety. I think will drive increased adoption of self-checkout. Even the research now will tell us it'll grow kind of unit volume and unit penetration at 8 to 10%, year on year over the next handful of years. It may even grow a little bit faster and start to expand into new domains outside of just grocery and big box, and maybe into convenience, and maybe even into soft goods and specialty. But you hit it on the head. I mean, the technology itself, the ability for a consumer to interact with a device or bring their own device or have another purpose-built device that they can scan in the store themselves, create a basket of goods, pay, and leave the store, that notion will continue to grow, where we have more of a unbounded ability to check out. So we've always had this bottleneck in the store. You got to come to the front of the store to check out, and there has to be somebody there to help you. It's like, well, why? You could check out all the way throughout the store. You could have a self-service checkout. So we are looking at new ways to kind of break apart the software side of that and the technology to say, okay, we can build a basket in the way the consumer wants to build a basket. You can do it yourself with your mobile phone. You could just shop as you would and then self-scan. You can pay with cash or credit. You can have a cashier check you out, whatever it may be. And then to your point, what are all the problems with that? Well, the big barriers are the customer experience and shrink. And so what we're leveraging are technologies like you described. Computer vision will be a big part of the frontier. We have similar sets of technologies that will allow us to identify items where if you put a bottle of wine, if it's available in a grocery store, on a scale and call it a banana, and then try to weigh the bottle of wine as it were bananas, it would catch that because the scanner is just an optical recognition device that can see that that's clearly not a banana based on a low number of pixels. So things like that, things like the ability to watch behaviors from either cameras, the existing security cameras and the scanners to see how items pass across and consumer behaviors to flag suspicious behavior in the store just based on what's happening. So we got to solve the shrink problem. And then on top of that, you can't have interventions to customers. If I have age restricted items or if they're having problems scanning it, you have to be there to help. So we find a big part of that is what we do is help consult in the store around what's the experience need to look like? How do you train your associates? And then what's the ultimate layout of the store need to look like to drive the throughput and really the experience that you're trying to create.
Is there any future in taking that experience to where once was thought about RFID, where you could just throw a basket through a scanner and 100 items would instantly get scanned? That's, of course, you need RFID tags in the product. But can machine vision start to get there where I start just running items through a conveyor belt in a self-checkout and I don't have to mess with it and it's all machine vision? Is there a future there?
Yeah, I think there is. We've done some pilots with some early technology. And then we've got some other more of a kind of a small basket convenience pilots that we're running now. So the answer is yes. There are limitations. When you think about a store today, the limitations can, if you could throw enough cameras and technology at it, you could do whatever you wanted. It becomes a little bit prohibitively expensive. So, yes, the short answer, Michael, is yes, we can do some of that. Obviously, the answer to the question is digitizing every item in the store. Like you said, what does that mean? Is it an RFID tag or is it an optical recognition of it? Is it the Digimark barcode? Is it some other way to know that, yes, I think we'll increasingly create a digital recognition capability for each item in the store, and that will enable new checkout of the future. That I think that's the evolution we're going, but which side wins is the hard part.
We'll be right back. The COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated the need for businesses to undergo a digital transformation. Through the Toronto's Regional Board of Trade's Recovery Activation Program, otherwise known as RAP, you can now immerse yourself in online sessions, workshops, and one-on-one mentorships with industry experts to learn how your businesses can get ahead through digital solutions. Whether your business is having difficulty connecting with customers or struggling to manage increasing demand, RAP offers practical support and advice at no cost, helping your business build back stronger and smarter. Wondering how you can get started? Well, Your business's wrap journey begins with Digital Needs Assessment, or a DNA. The DNA takes less than 30 minutes to complete and offers an assessment of your business's current digital maturity, benchmarked against companies of similar size from related sectors from around the country. Based on your results, WRAP's team of industry experts will contact you to discuss which programs will be most useful in helping you take the next step in your digital transformation. From helping you build your personalized digital transformation blueprint to tailored and outcome-driven modules based on cybersecurity and digital marketing tools, there's a WRAP program to support you and your business. In under a year, WRAP will have analyzed more than 1,000 Ontario businesses, hosted more than 4,000 virtual event attendees, and maintained 100% overall participation satisfaction. Remember, there's no cost to participate. So to ensure your business is ready to capitalize on those exciting opportunities for digital growth, take your digital needs assessment today at wrap.bot.com. That's wrap.bot.com. Well, let's follow that thread a little bit. As we like to say up here in Canada, we like to, or as Wayne Gretzky always used to say, I would skate to where I think the puck is going to be. So what's your advice to retailers listening around where the puck's going to be in terms of POS? We see lots of cloud-based, as you've mentioned, agile principles and concepts. What are the three things you think, three pieces of advice that retailers should get ready to think about?
It's another good question. I had a conversation with a very large retailer. They happened to be in the UK, and they said they had some advice from somebody that said, "Man, if you were trying to make a switch in technology 5 years from now, it would be so much better." And it's kind of an odd way to frame it. It's like, why? It's like you wrestle with the same problem. So when we step back to that, I say, what you have to do right now is, what I would advise is, one, you got to take a platform approach. So you have to create a platform that allows you to extend through things like APIs or open ecosystems that allow you to do community sourcing and leverage common capability models that are being across the industry. So there's a lot of investment going into startups. Retailers are investing in their own applications. You've got to create a unified platform that allows you to do that.
Like a broader ecosystem, because there's also concerns, and we've seen that in the past, where the POS can be a point of failure in terms of cybercrime, right? And right. So you've got to be very careful how you build that ecosystem out, right? Yeah, absolutely. And we're taking that platform approach to allow both for security and extensibility and flexibility. So I think that's one key. I think the other one is you've got to find a way to harness all the data that's flowing through your systems to drive personalization. I mean, we're finding there's so much data flowing through the systems today that isn't used and could be leveraged to create a rich customer experience. You think about online buying. I don't call it online shop. Online buying is easy. I can go onto a website, buy something online. Online shopping is not that much fun because it's hard. I can't see everything. I can't touch it. I can't feel it. I can't see it. All the things that it's hard to be inspired, right? It's hard to be inspired. It's the one thing that, it's very efficient. You can't beat it for efficiency, but right. For inspiration, there's nothing like a great associate with a perspective, right? Or whatever, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you think about what makes it, like you said, so efficient on the online side is you tell them who you are, you tell them what you've bought in the past, they know what others like you have bought in the past, and you have stored payment.
Right.
If you could take those items and elements and put them into your store and greet, hey, Michael, welcome back. Or on your mobile device, I know you're in my store. I see you shopping. You're buying pasta, sauce. You want mushrooms in your spaghetti tonight, and offer for fresh mushroom. There's some things that we could do to make the in-store experience feel
richer, right?
Yeah.
More experiential. I mean, we all in our industry. You and I have been around for a long time. You kick that experience word around to death a little bit, right? But you really got to get your arms around what does it actually mean in your world, right?
Yeah, so I think that's the key, and kind of bridging that experience. And we just at the beginning of the year we bought a company called FreshOp to extend our e-commerce platform. So now we have the grocery buying online, pick up in store. So that's really just the extension of how do you create the start of that experience and stretching it into the store. So I think that'll be the key. And then I think the third piece is it's got to be this notion of inclusiveness of the technology. So, you think about, like, if I have a mobile application, if I force you to download an app on your phone to have a good experience, what we find is that, this, like you said, we've been around a while. We know app downloads are not, for specific retailers, the percentage penetration is not that high.
Yeah.
And so you've got to find a way to make your technology inclusive and allow people to participate the way they want to participate.
Yeah, it's a great point. There's a Walmart store of the future here in Toronto that has I think you described it earlier in your discussion, where you can take an app and you can scan, put it in your cart, and there's a bit of a process at the end. But I was sitting there watching the store, and this is pre-COVID anyway, and there's about 30% of people in line full serve, 30% or 40%, 50%. I'm bad with math today. In self-serve, and almost nobody doing the this full checkout. And it was a great experience. Like even Walmart at the time, they were giving discounts. Hey, check out with this product, we'll give you 10% off. This adoption thing, it's easier to say than do, right? I mean, changing customer behavior is no easy feat.
Yeah, and you don't want to alienate those customers that, if that's the only way you can check out and have the best experience, and it's only 5% of your shoppers, what did you actually accomplish?
Yeah. That's a really great point. So listen, picking up on that last couple of questions, this whole changing consumer behaviors. I wonder from your perspective, retail has changed. There's no question retail has changed during the COVID era. And I'm curious your thoughts about which of those changes, though, are structural and which are adaptations to the world we're living in. And that it's starting to help get my head around the strategic implications of the COVID era in both consumer behavior and all these other things. What do you think falls in that this has changed, this is structurally changed versus temporarily changed? Any thoughts on that? Yeah,
we think a lot about that. I mean, it's really what drives our future in investment and in our products. I think the real crux of that question lies in the consumer and their experience. And it's really about the things that are convenient and are driving convenience, value, and flexibility for the consumers. And the things that are kind of a pain or creating barriers or friction in the consumer shopping experience today are going to go away. And some examples of those things are, again, the ability to buy online or start an order online and pick it up in the store, have it delivered to your home. We see the trends of online shopping, specifically for things like grocery, that haven't really had a high penetration, are expected to grow in the coming years. And, just the notion of then demanding that your online shopping experience has the same promotional elements, the same experience elements of how do I then blend that with the ability to pick out things like produce, meat, flowers, other things. So I think that those are things that are here to stay. And I think we're all going to be wired for this generation to be a little more spatially aware forever. And we're the thing, like plexiglass in the stores may go away, but we're going to have to think about, widening the lanes or broadening the lanes, or thinking about the way a store's laid out differently, because quite honestly, we've just done it the way we've done it forever, because that's the way we built stores.
I think back to that, what was his name? Paco Underhill had that great book about shopping, and he called it the butt rub phenomenon. If you touched another shopper in an aisle, you both just left. So he was kind of advising people to build bigger aisles. I think that's just going to be, as you said, I think that's going to be, anybody sneezes near you, you're going to have a fit. Exactly. Well, this is a great discussion. Where can people go to find out more about the kind of work you're doing, or get in touch and give us a sense of that?
Yeah, you can, if you're trying to figure out what we're doing, come to our website, ncr.com. You can follow me. I try to post things on LinkedIn. But you can find lots of things to follow on ncr.com. So that's really the place to go.
All right. Well, David, listen, it's been great chatting with you. Such a great, rich history, and you're really at the heartbeat of stores. So it was stores and beyond. So it was really wonderful to catch up with you. And thanks for taking time to be on the Voice of Retail podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. You got a great podcast. Appreciate you having me on.
Thanks for tuning into today's episode of The Voice of Retail. Be sure and subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out on the latest episodes, industry news, and insights. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a rating and review, as it really helps us grow so that we continue to get amazing guests onto the show. I'm your host, Michael LeBlanc, president of M.E. LeBlanc Company, Inc. And if you're looking for more content or want to chat, follow me on LinkedIn. Visit my website at meleblanc.co. Until next time, stay safe and have a great week.